Thanks for tuning in, guys. It's Pest and Lawn Ginja, and this is What's Wrong With My Lawn. The Ginja's back for another segment of What's Wrong With My Lawn, and it all begins with my 5-step approach. We're going to examine pattern, color, water saturation, debris test, and a pull test to figure out what's wrong with this lawn. Let's begin. Everything starts with the walkthrough. What we're looking for is to see if we're dealing with a uniform pattern or if we're dealing with a random pattern. But let's check it out. Now, this lawn is fairly small. As you can see, we have a couple of problem areas along the edges here. And then over here, we also have some problems along the edges. Overall, there is kind of a brown haze traveling through the lawn that we need to investigate and figure out what's going on. But at this point, I would say we have both a uniform pattern and we have random patterns. So there's something going on collectively across the entire lawn. Now, coming into the backyard, we have these random spots here. Kind of chunk these out a little bit, and this one is pretty classic case dog urine spot. You can tell by the orange color. I just kind of want to jump to the conclusion on this one because it's easy to identify. The orange color, it's one thing to clarify for you guys at home. It's not really the ammonia in the urine a lot of you guys want to jump to. It's the salt at the end of the day. So distilled water, things like that does help with dog urine spot. But over here, this is where it gets kind of random. This looks, we have another random pattern, right? A lot of us are going to jump to the conclusion this is lack of water. It might be, but hey, we need to go through the 5-step approach, see exactly what's going on. So at this point, I think it's safe to say we've got random issues throughout the lawn with our pattern, but we also have a uniform issue going on too. Now, walking through the lawn, our colors are brown haze, kind of a white haze as well. Now, part of the color identification is we're going to get into the lawn a little bit, but I need to make sure that I get through this correctly, and I need to resolve some concerns. Number one, are they watering properly? Number two, do we have too much debris that is causing molding or fungus or heat? It's now starting to get hot here, so I need to see if these water spots are actually lack of water or if they're not actually lack of water. So we're going to do the debris test, the water saturation test, and the pull test all at once right now, and then let's chat about it. So I love the AMS Soil Probe because it just tells me what's going on. Now, along the perimeter barrier where we had that random pattern of dry area, the soil is actually wet, which is awesome. Now, this spot over here that I'm dealing with over here, you'll notice when I pull the plug though, this spot is actually bone dry, like it's powder, and it's just kind of dust. Now, it's kind of funny though because the two patterns look the same, right? You see here, that's lack of water and it's brown. This has plenty of water and it's brown. Now, the dry areas versus the wet areas, be very easy for me to say that that wet area is now wet because the customer actually just fixed the sprinklers. Now, I talked to him. He had a sprinkler tech come out in April, adjust all the settings, and nothing has been changed. So I'm pretty convinced that that area has always been wet, and the dry spots just started getting really dry now that it's getting hot. Okay, so this is the area that I thought for sure was going to be lack of water. It's got that traditional drought stress pattern to it, and bam, plenty of water. I mean, it's nice and healthy. The roots are healthy. I mean, I'm getting, you know, out of Kentucky bluegrass here, looks to be about 6 to 8 inches of root depth, and the roots are happy. So this one kind of fooled me, and I'm kind of 50-50. I gotta kind of rely on what the person is telling me, that they haven't changed the sprinklers and the coverage and the timing, and I have to assume that there's been water in it. I don't see evidence of drought stress in the soil. The roots are really happy. They don't look thinned out. They're white. It looks like the bacteria is flowing, but overall I give the watering about a B+. There's only 2 spots in the entire lawn that need a sprinkler adjustment that look like lack of water. So move on to the debris test. Now this is a good example of what just tends to happen every now and then is we get the thatch rake that gets a little aggressive and exposes either an insect problem or shallow roots. So what I want to do is you just want to get in here and really take a look. And what we're looking for is just little capsules to tell us if this is just a rooting issue, which this is the shady side of the house. And as you can see here, the roots are going sideways. So these rhizomes, this is Kentucky bluegrass, and they're not going down. And you know, a lot of this is due to overwatering. And so we need to get a better plan on this side. But I'm not seeing, oh, here we go, little cutworm. Let's see here, show you guys at home. Find a little cutworm in here, and it is going to be causation. So we're going to want to do a general insecticide on this because it's causing some problems. Luckily, this kind of webworm or cutworm is not necessarily going to cause a ton of permanent damage as long as we catch it early, which it looks like we did. Couple of things that are difficult about this situation when you get heavily shaded areas. Bluegrass doesn't quite do as well, but it's about the only thing that's going to match through the entire yard. My suggestion to the customer at this point is going to be to introduce a little bit of ryegrass in here. That's going to thicken things up, keep it a little bit healthier, and we really only need it along the shady side. And not a lot of people are going to see this because it's covered by the fence, so it's not that big of a deal for the picky people. And this guy, he's already got 3 or 4 different varieties of grass that range from wider blade tall fescue. He's got a teeny tiny little bit of ryegrass and mostly blue. Another piece of evidence of webworm and cutworm, and so it's pretty obvious we need to do a curative measure on the lawn because we have small parts on this lawn. However, the one thing I'm happy about, our preventive measures seem to have been going well because it's not just pulling out everywhere, and we put in imidacloprid on this lawn for preventive measures for turf insects. Now let's go see the results of the thatch test, but we're going to combine that with our pull test, which is typically our final step. But remember, we're going to go back to examine the color after we see these results. Now we're pulling a lot of debris out of these areas. I mean, you figure this is what we pulled out of this area that looked dry, and this debris, it's soggy. You can see in here there's just a lot of moisture going on, and that's a lot in one little section. And here's a couple others that I did, but we're going to just kind of randomly tug on the lawn, see how bad that webworm cutworm issue that we have is. But you can see the soggy debris. This is not thatch. This is just debris. I need to make sure that you guys understand the difference. The thatch layer is a root ball. This is just dead grass that is not decaying. And a lot of you guys get confused on this. You have to remove the lawn litter to promote oxygen. Now, I'd say I give this a probably a solid C. It's time to remove it, but it's not causing major dysfunction. But again, it's just soggy. There's just a lot of stuff going on. And coming to the back, it gets better. This whole section really didn't have much. This section didn't have much. And then that's obviously dog urine spot. But the area that we thought was lack of water, which has water in it, has just a ton of this debris, and it's wet. It's just soggy. So we can definitely say that this causation is not water. Now I want to focus on talking about the debris issue. The root ball, subsurface and below surface, that is your thatch. it is true. You don't want to mess with that if you don't have to. It starts getting spongy, you want to remove it. This stuff right here, it's debris. That's what that is. It's just garbage. And it's not breaking down, it's not turning into thatch, it's just preventing oxygen flow. Eventually, it will start acting like a weed barrier, and a lot of you guys can relate to this because you'll put your grass clippings into your planters areas to prevent weeds and also to hold the water below. Same thing's happening in the grass. Now, one thing that you need to understand, for those of you guys who constantly get grubs, sod webworms, cutworms, that's the food. You got to get rid of it. So I'm going to recommend a power rake on this one, or a like the Sunjo and the Greenworks Dethatchers. I don't like that they named them that because they're really combs. They're going to get maybe the top 1/16 of an inch of thatch, but unless you're using a Scarifier or verticutter, you're not really doing much to the thatch. Well, I think it's safe to say I figured this one out. Let's go take a look. Now, it was a combination of the color, the water test, and the thatch test that gave this away. But what I want to do is walk through the lawn and just show you parts of the color on the physical blades of the grass so you can kind of get an idea. So this area was a little bit of a tell sign because it was still wet. And when we get into the grass blades here, look at this. See that white line? Let's see if I can get better light for you guys. But you'll see that white line right in there, and then it goes green. This is a fungus, and it's called Ascochyta. I'll put a link in the description to the Extensions Department article on this. And we start going through the lawn, and you're gonna find signs of it just about everywhere here, where the grass has signs of this Ascochyta and leaf spot. The tell sign is it looks like lack of water, but it's through the entire lawn. You'd think that this is herbicide tip burn. It's not. It's part of that Ascochyta, and it demonstrates like tip burn, but you can really see this color where it has these white specks right inside of it, and that's the tell sign of Ascochyta. It's kind of a funky little fungus, and it actually lives and breeds inside the moldy lawn litter. I was kind of tripped out to even find this here in Utah. We don't see this often, but this year we've had an exceptional amount of rain and moisture, and this little fungus hides inside that debris. So now let's talk about the repair. It's pretty simple. We're gonna start with a power rake and a cleanup. We need to be as thorough as possible. We need those topical layers to dry out. Then you have the option to run a fungicide. However, it's really not necessary in my opinion. You do the cultural control, you get it to breathe. Now, if you have heavy compaction, you can choose to aerate too. That's gonna help. Or you can choose to use the Scarifier, really open up the thatch. If your thatch is actually heavy, you want to test that using a soil probe. The other thing is we have to treat for the sod webworms and the cutworms. Now that's a pretty simple fix. You just get the cheapest contact killer, like a bifen, that you can find, and you're going to use the application rates for turf. Now, as for our dry spot, we need to get a sprinkler specialist out here to just make some slight adjustments. The rest of the lawn has an even distribution of water, about 6 to 8 inches deep, which is what we want for Kentucky bluegrass. It's perfect. Now, if you guys have any questions or concerns, hit me up in the comments. Love to help you guys out, but this is what's wrong with my lawn. See you on the next round. Bye.